Alright, what is up guys, my name is Taj, and in this video I'm just going to be explaining or going through my thoughts and reflections of having owned this 2007 BMW 335i for a year now. I bought the car on the 24th of June 2019 and today is the 20th of June 2020, so I've had it for literally just under 361 days. I've had it for just under a year, so I think now is a good time to just share my thoughts and reflections on owning this car. So the first thing, or the first kind of topic I'll go through is maintenance, because that's the one most people are going to be interested in. How much have you spent, how much of the cost that you back, has the engine exploded, that you broke? And the short answer to all of that is I haven't spent that much money on it, and there has been, alhamdulillah, nothing gone wrong with the car. So in terms of maintenance, I haven't had to do much to the car. The only things that were necessary, and we'll go through things that were necessary and things that I did anyway. So the necessary things were, when I bought the car, there was basically a clicking noise coming from the front driver's side wheel. So that was caused by two things. Number one was something to do with the subframe being loose or something. So I'm not sure what the exact diagnosis of that was, but that cost £100 to fix. And the second thing was basically, I think something in the brake caliper was loose, or maybe there was a rock there or something. So it was still clicking after I got that subframe issue sorted. Other necessary things that I changed was obviously just the service. I had the oil changed, and then also I had towards recently, towards doing 3,000 miles, the rear brake pads had basically deteriorated to the point where they needed to be changed. So that was a necessary change. But when I did change the brake pads, I changed all four. I did the fronts as well, and I also changed the front and rear discs. So the discs did not need to be changed, and actually I discovered that after changing them, the rear discs were basically new, and the front discs had barely done any mileage on them, so I'm going to be selling those. But I changed the front and rears purely because I wanted drill discs. Number one, because they look better, but also just for the peace of mind that when I do decide to sell the car, I can say that all the discs and pads were replaced at the same time. I know how many miles I've done. So yeah, other than oil changes and standard maintenance stuff, I haven't had to do anything. And you do hear a lot of horror stories to do with the N54 platform, whether that be in the 135i or the 335i. You hear things like wastegate rattle, fuel pumps exploding, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, this car's not immune to it. It could happen with this, but I just haven't had that experience. I know some people, they walk out of buying the car, next day they have to spend £2,000 fixing it. For me, alhamdulillah, I've had no issues in a year. And I feel like a lot of the issues are spurred on by people kind of not understanding what this car is. People buy this car because it's got a reputation of being very, very easily modifiable. You just have to do a stage 1 remap on the ECU, and you're pushing out 380 horsepower. That's like close to the M2, if not more. I'm not saying it's faster than M2, but you get the point. Like, the power is like up there in that kind of range of cars, and you can do that very cheaply. You can spend £500, get a dyno run, and get an ECU remap, and get all that power. Now the issue is that these cars have known issues, and the known issues are expensive to fix. What people do, because the cars are basically at the bottom of their depreciation at this point, they're very, very easy to pick up, and the mods are very, very easy to do. But the one thing that isn't cheap is the preventative maintenance that needs to be done before you do the mods. So people buy the cars, don't carry out the proper maintenance, and then when they do remap it, when they do put the pops and bangs in and all that stuff, the turbo seals explode, the fuel pumps can't handle it, the intercooler blows up, all these kind of things happen. And then they say, well, the car's unreliable. So what happens is people buy these cars cheap, and they think, yeah, cheap car, cheap mods, I've got 400 brake horsepower. Well, yeah, that's true, but as soon as you do those mods, the car is basically, if you haven't taken care of what needs to be taken care of, there's a very high chance that something's going to go wrong, of course. And the issue is people don't realise that, because fixing the proper stuff first is more expensive, and let's be real, not as fun. So yes, the car's got a reputation for being unreliable in the sense that it's got a lot of common issues. But once the common issues are sorted, you haven't got much to worry about, if I'm being honest. The actual block itself is bulletproof, as everyone says. It's just the kind of peripherals and bolt-ons, the fuel pumps and turbos. Those are the things that can go wrong. Once you sort those, then you've got the go-ahead to go and do all the mods. But people don't realise that, and then they buy these cars cheap, and then they mod them, and then they explode. That only adds to the whole reputation of this car being unreliable. But for me, I was kind of privy to that, and I haven't pushed the car past what it can do. I'm very aware that it's got 120,000 miles, and quite frankly, it does need some things changed. It runs perfectly fine, but if I wanted to do any kind of performance mods, I would be changing out the fuel pump, the water pump, the gaskets, probably replacing the turbos, all kinds of things before that. having that kind of intention and knowledge before buying the car, and you know, also owning it and the way I drive it, yeah, alhamdulillah, I've had no issues with it. So in terms of the actual money I've spent, the service cost 70 quid. That was just an oil change because the car was actually serviced before I bought it. It had all the filters changed already. I changed the brake discs and pads, so the discs cost £200 for the full set, all four, and the pads cost, I think, around 80 for all four. I've also changed the wiper blades, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of servicing. It cost £100 to get that clicking sound fixed from the subframe, but apart from that, yeah, that's everything in terms of what was needed to be done. And actually, in fact, the pads and discs, it was only the rear pads that needs to be done. The rear discs and the front discs didn't need to be done, and the front pads. In terms of insurance, I paid £1,220 my first year. So that was with only having held my license for 16 months and 0 years, no claims. Now that is astonishingly cheap, considering this is a 3-litre car and I had basically no driving experience. Well, I did because I was driving my dad's Auris basically before that as a named driver. But I think maybe to do my address, I'm not sure. But the insurance is cheap, which is basically half the reason I bought the car in the first place, because if you can't afford to insure the car, then there's no point buying the car, right? So insurance cost £1,220, and for anyone that's interested, my renewal is coming up, and that came to cheaper actually. So I have declared the mods, which I'll talk about in a bit, and it's come to £1,170. So that hopefully summarises the maintenance and the kind of necessary costs I put into the car. So we'll now talk about a bit of the kind of extra stuff and modifications, so to speak. First thing I did was put a boot lip spoiler on the back. So that cost like £85 off Facebook Marketplace. It's a very common thing, and it basically changes the entire look of the car in my opinion. The next thing I did was the LCI tail light upgrade. Why is this person driving 50? Come on. Getting undertaken here, mate. Not by me, by another BMW who didn't indicate. I indicate. Yeah, so the next thing I did was basically the LCI facelift upgrade for the rear lights, and it makes a huge difference to the car. That was also done pretty cheaply. I got the set of lights for £280, and I think they're around £600 new. I got them second hand, they come off an M3. And second hand, you're looking to spend, you know, anywhere between £300 and £500. So I got a pretty sick deal on it. I also had to buy a harness, which cost about £35, and also the tools, the socket set to change the lights themselves. So all in all, that cost about £330 maybe, but it was well worth it. The next few things I did basically happened during the lockdown when I was bored. So I wrapped the interior, not too successfully, but it's okay, it doesn't look too bad. And I also changed the front halogen daytime running lights from the yellow ones to new LED ones. So when I bought the car, I got it for a bit cheaper than it was listed. It was the cheapest M Sport 335i on the market on Auto Trader. When I bought it, I had an inspection done, and that was what revealed the issue with the front near side wheel. And alongside that, the steering wheel was also really chewed up. Like the leather on top had just completely come off. It was really bad, and we had to put a cover over it. So those two things combined got the car lowered down even more. But I didn't get around to changing the steering wheel until a year later. I've only just done it recently. So that sent me back £200. But luckily, I can probably resell the old steering wheel for not too much less than that actually, because £200 is pretty cheap for these steering wheels. They go for anywhere between £200 and £300. So I reckon I can sell the other one for maybe £125, £150. So for the sake of, you know, between £100 to £50, a new steering wheel, definitely worth it. And like I said, when I bought the LCI rear tail lights, I bought socket sets. I had all the tools needed already. So that's actually a piece of advice. If you're buying a car like this, there are bits and bobs that you should do yourself. For example, the rear lights, the steering wheel, if you want to change anything like that. Also, like wrapping the interior, you need to have a socket set, because to get the fans off the actual interior piece, you need to have like torque screws and stuff. So £30 on a socket set is definitely going to go a long way. And that will bring me on to what it's like to just own the car and drive it. So what it's like to drive, well, it's a BMW. It's great to drive, of course. It rides well, it's very well balanced, it steers well, everything. You can't complain. But there are a few nuances that you can't really predict before buying the car, before driving it for a long time. Nothing that a test drive will kind of reveal. One of which is the fact that BMWs come with run flat tyres from the factory, and this has also run flat tyres still there, and it's got 18-inch alloys. Now that's great for, you know, it's not great, but it's okay for motorway driving and roads that have good tarmac on them. The issue is in London. is the roads aren't actually that great, and we are riddled with speed bumps. So going over them in an already low car, because this is an M Sport, it's got a stiffened suspension and it's quite low to the ground, it can be very, very, very unpleasant to say the least. You go over a speed bump as slow as you think you're going like 50 miles an hour, that's pretty slow, and you still go over it and it scrapes the bottom. So that happens every time you go over a speed bump basically, unless you go really, really slowly. So when you're trying to drive somewhere, you're like getting there slower because you have to drive slowly over the speed bumps. Something I didn't really consider before buying the car. But for the motorway, it's great. I love it. It's very, very comfortable. Stick it in cruise control, and the gas mileage, or that's an American term, the MPG isn't even that bad. You can get about 37 on a run if you're driving really slowly in cruise control, of course. But yeah, it's not as bad as you think coming from a 3-litre turbo. In the city, it's not that great. It goes 20, but that's also because it's stopping and starting so much, and also that's just because of traffic. But you're also stopping and starting because of the speed bumps and stuff like that as well. So that's actually one thing I didn't mention about modifications. When I get the new alloys, I will be putting non-run flat tyres on top. But yeah, I can't fault the car. It's a lovely car to drive. It's very smooth. It's true what they say about the power delivery, because it's got 2 small turbos rather than 1 big turbo. It's very linear, but I can't be a big judge of that because I've only driven this car really. I drove my boys Golfer Mark 6 I'm on. Very, very briefly. I just put my foot down a bit, and yeah, there's a bit of a turbo lag, but with this it's not so noticeable. So the one thing I will fault is the gearbox. It's very slow. It's a good gearbox. It's smooth. The shifts are smooth. They don't throw you back, but it's very, very slow. So that's what I was talking about when I wanted to do the XHP Flash. I just want to get them a bit quicker. The gear shifts a bit quicker. Now, personally, my usage of the car isn't a daily driver. I've only done 3,000 miles on it, so I can kind of justify the fuel cost and the occasional uncomfortable drive across the city, and also the fact that this car requires a premium of £550, and I think it's gone up to 560 now for road tax. But combined with the fact that I spent so little on the car itself, the price I bought the car for was the same kind of price you'd be paying for like a 1.3 litre Vauxhall Corsa from 2012 or something. I've got a very nice car, alhamdulillah, and yeah, I can kind of justify the high expense for road tax and petrol because I just don't drive that much. It is DBS, jeez. Nice, mashallah. But yeah, alhamdulillah, I've really enjoyed owning the car. The only thing that kind of put a downer on it was the fact that having the chewed up steering wheel for a long time, I had to have a cover over it, like a taxi driver thing. And it's such a little thing, but it makes the steering wheel thicker and it's not as nice to maneuver with and stuff like that. So once I recently changed it, it just changed the entire car. It's such a simple thing. And also the brake caliper clipping at the front, you click. When you brake, it clicks and you think something's broken. Even though it's perfectly fine, it was braking straight, it was tracking straight. Just knowing that shouldn't be there took away from the experience, and it's just one of those things that was playing in my head. Now those two things are sorted, the only thing I want to do now is, like I mentioned, put the non-run flat tyres on, and I think that will be it. That will transform the entire car. Alhamdulillah, I'm very blessed to have a car like this, to come across a deal like I did, and to just be in a situation where I can, justify owning a car like this, because in a few years' time, when I might have to be daily driving or something, I might not be able to do that, and that's all qadr of Allah. But I'm just going to try and enjoy as much as I can now without putting too much money into it, not taking it too seriously, because tomorrow it could go. I don't know what's planned for me or planned for the car, so just take it as it comes and try to enjoy as much as I can. It's not exactly a comprehensive guide on whether you should buy a 335i or not. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.